apologies for the wind and the weird angle, but I just made a really awesome discovery. All my hard work finally paid off. And I don't want to show the horizon around me because I know there's some crafty folks out there who like to find and see if they can recognize some peaks and triangulate my location. So I verified this is completely unclaimed with the BLM and the county recorder. And there were some old claims out here, but they've all been dropped. And unfortunately for them, they left a lot of good stuff in the ground. Let me show you what I found. And this is just the tip of it. This is just the place I made my discovery. There's more to it. I'll show you later. So here's my discovery marker. And this is all jade. All of this. You'd recognize this weird rusty weathering rind if you see my first video. And I have a bunch of different kinds. I got this really dark black out here. Obviously someone has discovered this before I did. This was worked in the 60s, I believe. But there is some awesome stuff here. Awesome. It's bordering on apple green, if not a little bit of apple green in there. And I know this isn't going to show up on the camera very well, but there is just some beautiful color in there. Let me get my shadow out of the way. This is just, you got a little bit of almost like a shade of light blue, but that's just due to this white on the rock. And boy, I've took some of this home and I've cut it, and it is just gorgeous jade. And this is some solid stuff. There is some fractures through it, but by and large, this is some pretty solid stuff. And there is a lot of it. A lot. I mean, there's easily 10,000 pounds, and some of these boulders are over 1,000 pounds each, at least. And they look like junk because they were obviously stacked here in a pile. This is where I put my discovery marker in. But let me tell you, this is all good jade. And this isn't the really dark green stuff that I've been used to finding. This is what I've been usually finding is more like the dark stuff like this. This is some high quality stuff, at least compared to what I'm used to finding. I mean, there's some, that's over 1,000 pound boulder there. Nice chunk right there. Big chunk right there. And the cool thing is, I want to do this without showing too much horizon here. Bam! I can drive right to it, which means I can get an excavator up here. Let's walk over here. There's more vein over here. All of this, and it's a varying quality. It kind of gets a little bit worse over here, and it gets a little bit better over here. You can see where somebody's been tearing into it, and it's highly variable quality. That part on the peak up there is awesome. But I mean, it's an extensive deposit. There's easily, maybe 40,000 pounds up here. And it really depends how big this vein is. From what I've discovered, I think it continues, and boy, I want to show you, it continues this way. I want to show you how long it continues, but I want to avoid the horizon. I don't want to give anything that allows anybody to identify where I'm at. Let's take a look at this big piece up here, right at the peak of the claim. I mean, this is all solid, just beautiful stuff. And there isn't a whole lot of I mean, there's definitely not fractures running all through it. There are places where there may be one main fracture. Obviously, it's separated into big blocks, as it is down here as well. But boy, guys, I can't even tell you. This is the best find I think I've ever made, and that includes during my gold prospecting years, where I don't know, I made some pretty impressive finds back then. For me, I know a lot of guys out there, especially in Australia, make way better finds. That color down there is just beautiful. And the translucency is awesome. It's better than anything I've ever found. In fact, it's almost as good or equal to the translucency of the jade sample that I got sent from China, which someone tells me is actually Siberian jade. So come along with me as we take a look at my new claim. So I just drove the southwest stake. This is the southwest corner of my claim. And it's actually placer jade right down in all through this gully. Those are 400 pound boulders down there. You can see the kind of rusty weathering rind on them. And I think all of this stuff is coming from these veins right up here, which I haven't explored fully yet, and that's what I'm out to do today after I finish driving the stakes into the ground. These are a continuation of the vein where my discovery marker is, right up over the other side of this hill. And I'm hoping that I can find something that is as high as quality of that as that vein over by my discovery marker. So far this stuff has been mostly medium quality that I've been looking at, but there has been a couple of nice pieces of jade right down here in the float. So I'm thinking there's something that I missed up there the first pass, and we're going to walk back up there again. I have to be careful because I don't know if you can see those. There's cattle out here now, and my dog kind of is scared of them. So we're up that hill where that vein area is that I was pointing out when I was down there by my post. And this is an interesting vein. This is one of the veins that are up here. As you can tell, somebody has found this previously. In fact, this was claimed in the 60s. But someone either forgot about it or, you know, they died and didn't have family to pass it on. But this is definitely unclaimed. And this is some pretty nice stuff. The reason I thought it was interesting is, in fact, some of this is a little close-up of what some of it's looking like. Of course, when you get it cut and polished, it looks a lot nicer. But there's some pretty nice green in here. And it's not just green. Some of this is actually bordering on blue. There's another piece. That's got some nice green. That's got a little bit of apple green in it, it looks like. But some of this is almost bordering on blue, which is pretty interesting. In fact, let me walk you over here. I'm not sure how well these colors show up on the camera. It's really hard to tell because the sun's shining in my screen, but I was looking, and this one actually has some really nice green. It's not wet anymore, but this one is kind of bluish as well. That's what some of this looks like when it's knocked off. And this also has just a slight blue tinge to it too. So there's some nice jade in these. So this is a hell of a find. I mean, I'm frankly just kind of incredulous that nobody has this claimed. It's obvious that somebody has worked this in the past, and I do see the closed claim on it, but there's definitely, I checked with the BLM and the county recorder, and there is definitely no claims on it right now. This one right here, you can tell, as they say, didn't bake in the oven long enough. You can see the actinolite in there still. That's partially metamorphosed. And the other thing that I noticed as I was exploring around more is someone actually had a dozer up here. Those are old dozer workings, and you can see some old timbers down there. Someone went and dozed that whole placer area. And I can only imagine, with the kind of jade that's still left down there, I can only imagine what kind of good stuff they actually took out of here. So let's explore some of these veins more. This is a significant resource. I would say, I mean, this vein continues into the hill here. It must end right at this quartzite. This is all solid jade right here. This is a significant resource. This vein also continues over here and goes into the hill, and I'm not sure, that's a really cool piece up there. I'm not sure how far it continues downhill. You can see this stuff scattered all over downhill, but I think it also must continue uphill because rocks don't travel uphill. I don't know if I'm pointing right at it, I can't see my screen, but there's a big chunk of jade right up there too. Rocks don't travel uphill, so that came from somewhere up there. So just on this vein, I would say there's a good 20,000 pounds of jade, and I'm not sure, maybe even more actually. I'm not sure how much of this is high quality, carvable quality, or just junk, but down here in this placer area, there's still another, probably the same, probably 20,000 pounds of boulders down there. And really, you just got to start cutting into them to see how good they are. My experience was about 25% of the ones I was cutting into down there were good, non-fractured, good translucency and good color quality. The other 75% were so-so. Well, I'm going to explore around. We got some more exposures up here. I just wanted to show you this big old boulder at the top of that outcrop really quick. That is solid jade in there. And there's some nice color through there. That's my dog panting in the background. I'm not really seeing any major fractures in there, or any fractures at all. Although I guess there are as you go towards the edge there. But I mean, that's probably, there's the top of it. That's probably a, oh, that's got to be 500 pounds anyways. There's a piece that came off of that. I'm not sure how I could even get that boulder out of here if I wanted to, because I couldn't drive an excavator down here. I'd have to make like a wire line, sort of zip line system to hook this up with a winch on it, pull it up, and then zip it on down, all the way down back into the gully and put it in a trailer or something. That's probably more than 500 pounds. That's probably 700-800 pounds right there. So, you know, even at just $10 a pound, if that thing's 800 pounds, that's $8,000. So that's, I mean, just blows my mind that this is unclaimed out here. So I have explored most of these outcrops that I showed you up on the top of this hill, and this one little section here is in fact jade, but it's kind of low quality, not really worth any more time. But there is one more, this last outcrop right here. This is actually looking fairly decent. And again, I really wish I could see my view screen. I can't even tell if that's in frame, but that's some really nice translucent green there. And this outcrop is truly massive. It's this entire thing, and it goes downhill too. In fact, let me walk up here, hopefully without shaking the camera too much. Can you see that? Massive. I mean, there's 100,000 pounds here. And I haven't gone and knocked edges off, but all of this is jade. So without hammering some corners off, I'm not sure if it's all of the same quality as that stuff I just showed you back there. In fact, just looking at this, I can tell some of it isn't, because you can see the actinolite in here. You can still see fibers really just right on the surface. So some of this wasn't baked long enough. And of course, this is more fractured than those massive blocks that I was showing you on the other side. But this exposure is also about, 20 times the size. So I would call this claim a significant resource. I am really stoked I found this. This could provide 5-10 years of exploration fun here. I saw this pit from Google Earth, so I decided to come explore it. I figured it was something for maybe copper or, who knows what. And in fact, it is jade, and that's some pretty nice color right there. And I found this. If you ever find these old tobacco tins sitting around, open them up and see what's in them, because a lot of times they put their claim papers in them, the old timers did. Here's some of the other jade I was finding there. That's got some nice color in it. So unfortunately, it's kind of degraded right in the important stuff. But you can see the signers. I hope I'm getting this in frame. I'm trying to do this with one hand and not rip these papers up. But it looks like it says Stanley. One of the claimants' name is Stanley, and one's Clyde. So I might be able to trace them down from that. Looks like Stanley Smith or something, and then Clyde L. They're not names I recognize from the old historic guys, but these were from the first wave of jade claimants out here. So this is an old one. In fact, I thought the date was ruined. It says June right there, and you can see 1942. That's what that says right there. It says 193, but they've got a 4 written there, so it's either, I think it's a 4. It's hard to tell. So it's either 1932 or 42, but there wasn't really much happening out here in the 30s, especially 1932. I don't think jade had really been discovered other than a few bits here and there, so I think that's 1942. So that's pretty cool. Another thing to keep an eye out. Good bits of history. Alright, so I'm back home now, and I have gotten quite a few samples cut up, just a kind of random assortment from all over throughout that vein. This is out of a box I'm sending up to Canada, as many of these as I can fit in here. I just kind of wanted to show you some things that came out of those various pods and veins that I found in there. This stuff is a little bit coarser grain than I had originally hoped, but there, you know, there is some nice color in it, and it's a pretty cloudy day out today, so I'll show you some of these. Is that focusing? I'll show you some of these. I mean, you can see the translucency on that one. I'm not even shining it in the sun. I'll show you some of these under the flashlight, though. That's a slabbed piece. Got a nice kind of vein of appley going through there. I don't think this... Is that focusing? So yeah, it's not quite as nice as I thought it was. You know, there's a little bit of solid color, not in these particular samples, but there's a little bit of apple vein about as thick as my finger. But by and large, this big chunk here is pretty close to what most of this vein is. What most of this deposit is, sorry. There's a smaller vein of this stuff. Get that to focus. This camera drives me crazy. And this stuff has really high translucency. I'll take you inside and show you some of this under the flashlight really quick. And then we'll get this boxed up and sent off to Canada. I'll just show a couple of these with the flashlight here, and I'm sure my camera autofocus is going to drive both you and I absolutely crazy. So there's that piece I showed you outside, and just shine a little flashlight through it. It's got some really nice translucency. I mean, that's almost half an inch thick right there. Maybe it is half an inch thick, and of course it isn't focusing. Why would it focus? Come on. Anyways, here's a chunk from that smaller vein, which also has some really nice translucency. That's this piece here, if we can get it to focus. And then this is more like the bulk of the vein. There's that little smaller vein within the actual larger chunk of nephrite. But it's some fairly decent color, and I slabbed that pretty thick. That's a solid, oh, that's got to be 1/4 inch anyways. Focus. Come on. So thanks for coming along with me on this one, and we have a lot to work on. Next year, hopefully, if I get all my permits and bonding done, I should have a whole mine running. Of course, just small scale, nothing like, you know, like you might see on TV, but it should be interesting. Hopefully we'll get some heavy equipment out there. Maybe we can get permitted for some blasting, and yeah, we'll dig into those veins and pods, and we'll see if it gets better, see if we can find some gem quality, see if we can find a market for the bulk material, and ooh, I have something. I'll show it at the end of the video. I don't know why I get myself into these things. You know what this is? Not the trailer. This piece of metal here. Those are diamonds. That's 23 feet of diamonds encrusted onto this blade. I don't know why I bought it. It was just too good of a deal to pass up. I sense a build project video coming up. Although, we got snow coming. In fact, there's a mountain up there, and it's covered in snow right now. So we might not get to it this year, but we're going to build a 23-foot diamond bandsaw out of this old boat trailer and this big old blade to cut rocks, slab big rocks. Maybe next time. See ya.